soul bloom. Naima sat on her windowsill, the rain tapping against the glass like a rhythm only her soul could hear. It was one of those warm summer storms, the kind that made you want to curl up with a cup of tea and let your thoughts wander. She ran her fingers through her natural curls, freshly washed and still damp. Her edges weren't laid and she didn't care. "Look at you, girl," she murmured to herself, catching her reflection in the glass. No makeup, no lashes, just her bare face staring back. The truth hit like thunder in the distance. She had spent most of her life trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for her. The wigs, the contour, the endless trips to the salon. It all felt like armor she had to wear just to step outside. But tonight she was done with it. Her phone buzzed and she picked it up to see a text from Shay. "Yo, what you doing? You down for a lil' girl's night?" Naima smiled. Shay always knew when she needed her. "Bet. But don't expect me to be dolled up. I'm on my love me as I am vibe right now." The dots appeared as Shay typed back, "Sis, you ain't gotta explain nothing. Pull up in sweats if you want. You still gon' outshine everybody." Naima laughed. She knew Shay was gassing her up, but it felt good. As the rain poured down, she made a silent promise to herself. This summer, she wasn't gonna hide. She wasn't gonna shrink herself to fit anyone's expectations. Not society's, not her ex's, not even her own. She was gonna love herself out loud, flaws and all, and she was taking her girls with her. Naima pulled up to Shay's spot, a cozy little townhouse tucked at the edge of the city. The air was still thick from the rain, and the smell of wet concrete mixed with the faint aroma of barbecue from somewhere down the block. She didn't bother putting on makeup, just slipped on some leggings, a hoodie, and her favorite pair of sneakers. When she stepped inside, the familiar sound of Erykah Badu's On and On floated through the air. Shay was in the kitchen, barefoot, her locks wrapped up in a silk scarf, stirring something on the stove. Drea and Lyric were already sprawled out on the couch, trading jokes like they hadn't just seen each other last week. "You know what? Y'all ain't right," Lyric said, laughing so hard she had to wipe her eyes. "Drea, you better stop playing before I spill all your tea." "Girl, please," Drea shot back, flicking her wrist. "You ain't got no tea on me. I'm dry out here." Naima grinned as she kicked off her shoes and joined them. "Dry where?" "You know Drea stay with somebody sliding in her DMs." Drea gave her a playful side eye. "Don't start, Nye. Not all of us are trying to be on pause like you. Some of us like a little action." "Action?" Shay called from the kitchen. "Sis, what action? The last time you had action, you were crying on FaceTime about how he didn't even text back the next day." "Okay, but why you gotta bring up old stuff?" Drea said, rolling her eyes. The room erupted in laughter. It felt good, easy, like breathing. Shay walked over, holding a steaming pot of what smelled like gumbo. "All right, y'all, eat up. But first, I need to know why Naima looking like she just saw God or something. What's going on, sis?" Naima hesitated, running her finger along the edge of the table. She hadn't planned on laying it all out tonight, but this was her circle. If she couldn't be real with them, who could she be real with? "I'm just tired," she said finally. "Tired of what?" Lyric asked, leaning forward. "Tired of all of it. The makeup, the wigs, the constant need to look the part. Like, who decided what the part even is? I just want to be me, but it's like the world don't let you do that if you're a Black woman. You gotta be flawless all the time. But I'm not flawless. And honestly, I don't want to be. I just want to exist without feeling like I'm not enough." The room went quiet for a moment. "I feel that," Shay said, breaking the silence. "I can't even go to the grocery store without somebody saying, 'You look tired,' just 'cause I didn't do my brows. Like, can I live?" "Exactly," Naima said. So I decided I'm done with all that. For the summer at least. No makeup, no wigs, no nothing, just me. If people don't like it, oh well. Lyric clapped her hands. Yes, sis, that's what I'm talking about. Love yourself out loud. You inspiring me right now. I'm with you, Shay said, nodding. Let's do it together. A bare summer. Wait, Drea said, holding up her hands. Y'all ain't gonna rope me into this. I need my lashes, okay? I got a kid, and if I don't look awake, these teachers be judging me. Girl, please, Lyric said, tossing a pillow at her. Ain't nobody judging you. You just scared to see yourself without all that extra. Drea opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She shrugged. All right, fine. I'll try it. But if I look busted, don't say nothing. The four of them burst out laughing again, but underneath it was a sense of something real, something important. This summer wasn't just about ditching makeup. It was about reclaiming themselves, their identities, their power. The next morning, Shay stared at herself in the mirror, her toothbrush dangling from her mouth. The remnants of sleep still clung to her eyes, her edges were doing their own thing, and her skin had a faint sheen from last night's shea butter. She leaned closer, inspecting the faint bags under her eyes. You look tired, she imagined her coworker saying at the Monday meeting. They always said that when she skipped the concealer and mascara. She hated it, like her worth was tied to how polished she looked at 8 a.m. Not today, she muttered, rinsing her mouth. She threw on a simple jumpsuit, some gold hoops, and her favorite pair of flats. Her locks were still wrapped in the scarf she'd slept in. Normally, she'd spend at least 30 minutes styling them, but today she was raw, real, herself. Shay walked into the law office with her head held high, but she felt every pair of eyes on her. Good morning, a coworker chirped as Shay passed by. The woman's eyes flicked up to Shay's hair, and for a split second, her smile faltered. Here it comes, Shay thought. You look different today, the woman said, hesitating just long enough to make it awkward. Shay forced a smile. Yeah, just keeping it natural. Thanks for noticing. The coworker blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. Shay kept walking. She wasn't about to let anyone's side-eye ruin her day. By lunchtime, she was in the break room, scrolling through the group chat. Naima. First day of bare summer and I'm feeling free. Who else holding strong? Lyric. Sis. You know I'm out here like the queen I am. My fro is giving clouds today. Drea. I'm at the park with my son. These moms keep staring, but whatever. Ain't no lashes today, but I'm still cute. Shay smirked and typed back. Shay. It's wild how people notice when you strip everything down. Had a coworker almost glitch out this morning. Naima. LOL, that's their problem. You're doing this for you, not them. Shay set her phone down, her smile fading. Naima was right, but it was easier said than done. She'd spent her whole career learning how to navigate spaces that weren't made for her. Her crisp suits, flawless makeup, and perfectly styled locks were her armor. Without them, she felt exposed. Lyric stood in front of the mirror in her tiny studio apartment, fluffing her afro with a pick. She twirled in her favorite sundress, the yellow fabric popping against her skin. Okay, girl, you cute, she said to herself, striking a pose. She had a gig downtown later that night, a spoken word event at a local lounge. Normally, she'd put on some big earrings, slap on a bold lip, and maybe add a little shimmer to her cheeks. But tonight, she decided to keep it simple. Just her afro, her dress, and her unshakable confidence. When she arrived at the lounge, the energy was electric. The crowd was mostly black and brown faces, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Lyric stepped onto the stage, gripping the mic. This one's for my sisters, she said, her voice steady. The ones who feel like they gotta hide just to shine. Nah, sis. You are the sun. And no matter how many clouds they try to put over you, you still gonna light up the sky. The crowd erupted in snaps and cheers as Lyric launched into her poem, a fiery poem to Black women reclaiming their beauty. Later that night, the group chat was buzzing again. Naima. Lyric. I heard your poem was fire tonight. Drop some bars for us. Lyric. Hey, here's a piece. Cocoa butter blessings, melanin rich. You don't need a filter, girl. You already it. Shay. Whew, I felt that. Drea. Same. Lyric out here. Preaching. Naima. We're all preaching in our own way. This summer ain't just about going bare. It's about stripping away all the stuff that holds us back. The group chat went quiet for a moment, and then Drea sent a voice note. Y'all, I just want to say I love this. I love us. I love how we're doing this together. Like, we don't need no validation from anybody. We're enough. Just like this. The voice note ended, and for a few seconds, no one responded. Then, one by one, they each sent a heart emoji. It was Lyric's idea to hit the Natural Essence Festival downtown. The 3-day event was a celebration of Black beauty, culture, and empowerment. The festival's tagline was, "No additives, no filters, just us." It felt like fate. The crew decided to meet at Naima's place before heading out. Naima's living room smelled like incense and coconut oil as everyone gathered, the vibe already set. Okay, but why y'all ain't tell me this was a whole fashion show? Drea said, tugging at her cropped denim jacket. Girl, relax, Lyric said, adjusting her hoop earrings. The only thing you need to wear is your confidence. Naima laughed as she packed snacks into her oversized tote bag. Lyric, you should have been a motivational speaker. Or a preacher, Shay added, rolling her eyes but smiling. The festival was alive with music, laughter, and the hum of vibrant energy. Stalls lined the streets, selling handmade jewelry, natural skincare products, and Afrocentric art. Everywhere they looked, women rocked their natural hair, afros, locks, braids, twists. It was like stepping into a living portrait of Black beauty. Y'all see this? Naima said, gesturing around. I feel like we stepped into Wakanda. Wakanda with a DJ, Shay said, nodding toward the stage where a local artist was performing a soulful set. As they wandered, each woman had a moment that hit close to home. At a booth promoting natural skincare, a vendor handed Naima a mirror. Look at yourself, sis. Really look, the woman said. Naima hesitated, but held the mirror up. Her bare face stared back, glowing in the afternoon sun. For once, she didn't search for flaws. She just looked. You see that? The vendor asked. That's love staring back at you. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. Naima felt her throat tighten as she thanked the woman. Shay found herself at a panel discussion titled Redefining Professionalism. A Black woman with salt and pepper locks stood at the mic, passionately dismantling the biases Black women face in corporate spaces. I spent years thinking I had to conform to be seen as capable, the speaker said. But let me tell you something. Authenticity is power. Walk into those rooms as yourself and make them adjust to you. Shay felt those words like a slap and a hug all at once. Lyric ended up at an open mic tent where anyone could perform. Of course, she signed up. When her name was called, she stepped onto the small stage, barefoot and beaming. She performed a new piece she'd written that morning, a fiery celebration of Black women's resilience. When she finished, the applause was deafening. A young girl in the front row whispered, I want to be like her when I grow up. Lyric's heart swelled. Drea was drawn to a workshop titled Breaking the Mom Mold. She hesitated at first, but eventually joined the circle of mothers sharing their stories. One woman said, I used to think being a mom meant sacrificing who I was, But how can I teach my kids to love themselves if I don't love me? Drea nodded, tears pricking her eyes. She thought about her son and how much he looked up to her. Maybe it was time to show him what self-love looked like. As the sun set, the four of them found themselves at the main stage, where the festival's keynote speaker was addressing the crowd. "We are magic," the woman on stage said, her voice booming. "Not because of what we put on, but because of what's already in us. This summer, this life, is about peeling back the layers and letting that magic shine." Naima glanced at her friends. Shay stood tall, her locks blowing in the breeze. Lyric swayed to the rhythm of the crowd's cheers. Drea wiped a tear but smiled wide. Naima smiled too. This is what Bear Summer is about, she thought. Stripping down, lifting up, and letting the world see the beauty of us. All of us. Later that night, back at Naima's, they sat in a circle on the floor, sipping wine and munching on fruit. "That festival was everything," Drea said. "It really was," Naima agreed. "I feel lighter." "Me too," Shay said. "Like I don't have to carry all that extra weight anymore." Lyric raised her glass. "To us. To being bare, bold, and beautiful." They clinked their glasses together, a quiet vow shared between them. The festival had been a high, but reality came rushing back as the women returned to their daily lives. Each of them faced moments where going bare tested their resolve, forcing them to confront parts of themselves they had been avoiding. Naima stood in front of her classroom, trying to focus on the lesson plan she had written out for her high school English students. It was Monday morning, and the stares had already started. "Miss Wilson, you okay?" One of the girls in the front row asked. "I'm fine," Naima said, keeping her voice steady. "You just look different, like you ain't do your makeup today or something," the girl said innocently. The comment hit Naima like a dart. She took a deep breath. "That's because I didn't," she said. "I'm trying something new. Sometimes we get so used to covering up that we forget we're beautiful without all the extras." The girl tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "I guess I never thought about it like that." Naima smiled. Maybe she wasn't just doing this for herself. Shay's week started with a high-stakes meeting with senior partners. She walked into the conference room in her signature power suit, but no makeup, her locks styled simply. Her boss glanced at her and said, "You seem different this morning." Shay forced a smile. "Just decided to keep it natural." The meeting went on, but Shay couldn't shake the feeling that every word she spoke was being scrutinized more than usual. When it ended, she ducked into the bathroom, gripping the sink as she stared at her reflection. "Why does it feel like I have to prove myself twice as hard, just because I don't look put together?" she whispered. But then she thought about the panel at the festival and the speaker's words. Authenticity is power. Shay straightened her shoulders. "Let them adjust to me," she said to herself, walking out with her head high. Drea was at the park with her son, Jalen, watching him play basketball with the neighborhood kids. She had thrown on a t-shirt and leggings that morning, skipping her usual lashes and lip gloss. A group of moms stood nearby, chatting and glancing her way. "Drea, you good?" One of them called out, her tone a little too cheerful. "Yeah, why?" The woman shrugged. "Just wondering. You usually look more polished." Drea clenched her jaw, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, thanks." Later that night, as she tucked Jalen into bed, he looked up at her and said, "Mom, you're so pretty." Drea blinked back tears. "You really think so?" "Yeah," he said, grinning. "You look like you, and that's the best." For the first time, she believed it. Lyric was on a date with a guy she had met at the festival. He was cute, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in her. But halfway through dinner, he said, "You know, I like how natural you are. Not like those other girls who do too much." Lyric froze, her fork hovering in midair. What's that supposed to mean? He laughed nervously. I just mean, you're not out here wearing fake lashes or wigs. You're real. Lyric set her fork down. So what? Women who wear lashes or wigs aren't real? You ever think maybe they do that for themselves and not for you? The guy stammered, clearly caught off guard. Lyric sighed, standing up. Here's some advice. Complimenting one woman by tearing down others ain't a compliment at all. She walked out, feeling both angry and proud. Being natural wasn't about proving a point to anyone else. It was about loving herself. Period. By the end of the week, the women met at a small coffee shop to catch up. I almost caved today, Naima admitted, sipping her tea. One of my students called me out, and it felt like the whole class was staring at me. Girl, same, Drea said, shaking her head. The moms at the park made me feel like I was out here looking raggedy. But then Jalen said I was pretty, and it hit me. I'm enough for him, so why can't I be enough for me? I had a moment too, Lyric said, rolling her eyes. This dude thought he was complimenting me by dissing other women. I had to shut that down real quick. Shay nodded. It's wild how people react when you strip away the armor. I felt so exposed at work. But you know what? I'm tired of feeling like I have to earn my spot by being perfect. I belong there, makeup or not. Naima smiled at her friends, her heart swelling with pride. Y'all, this is what it's about. We're not just going bare. We're breaking free. The table fell silent for a moment, the weight of their shared journey sinking in. Then Lyric raised her cup. To us, she said, to being bold, bare, and beautiful. They clinked their cups together, a quiet but powerful toast to their growth. The Women's Bare Summer wasn't just about shedding makeup, lashes, or wigs. It was about embracing their truth. And as they leaned deeper into their journeys, something incredible began to happen. The people around them noticed. Naima had started a new unit in her English class on identity and self-expression. She assigned her students a personal essay titled, Who Am I Without the Filters? One afternoon, a student lingered after class. Ms. Wilson, can I ask you something? The girl said, twisting a strand of her braided hair. Of course, Brianna. What's up? Brianna hesitated. You know how you said we don't need all that extra stuff to be beautiful? Do you really believe that? Naima smiled, her heart aching at the vulnerability in the girl's voice. I do, Bree. But it's not always easy. The world will try to tell you otherwise, but your beauty isn't something you put on. It's already in you. The girl nodded slowly, her eyes shining. I think I want to try going without makeup for a while. Naima's smile widened. That's a brave choice, and no matter what, just remember, you're enough. At Shay's office, the whispers hadn't stopped, but she had stopped caring. She noticed something interesting, though. One of her younger colleagues, a black woman named Tasha, had started wearing her natural curls instead of straightening her hair. One day, Tasha approached Shay after a meeting. I just wanted to say thanks, Tasha said, her voice low. Thanks? For what? Shay asked, genuinely confused. For being yourself, Tasha said. Seeing you walk in here, looking confident without all the extras, it made me realize I don't have to do all that either. Shay blinked, caught off guard. Tasha, you've always been enough. But I'm glad you see it now, too. Drea was braiding Jalen's hair one evening when he suddenly said, Mom, why do people care so much about looks? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean, baby? He shrugged. I heard some moms at the park saying you don't try anymore, but I think you're the prettiest mom there. Drea paused, her hand stilling in his hair. She swallowed hard, her chest tightening. "People care because they don't always know better," she said finally. "But what matters most is how you see yourself. And if you think I'm pretty, that's all I need." Jalen grinned, his gap-toothed smile lighting up her world. "You are the prettiest." Lyric's open mic performances had taken on a new energy. She noticed more and more women showing up with bare faces and natural hair, their heads held high. One night, after she finished her set, a young woman approached her. "Your poems, they've changed how I see myself," the woman said, her voice trembling. Lyric's chest tightened. "That's why I write," she said softly. The woman smiled, wiping her eyes. "You make me feel like I'm enough, just as I am." Lyric hugged her, feeling the weight of those words. This wasn't just her journey. It was a movement. The crew gathered at Lyric's place one Friday night, their usual wine and laughter filling the air. "So," Lyric said, setting down her glass, "who else feels like their bare summer is starting to catch on?" "Girl, let me tell you," Naima said, her eyes bright. "One of my students decided to go without makeup because of something I said in class. I almost cried." Shay grinned. "Same. One of my coworkers started rocking her natural curls, and she told me it was because of me." Drea nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Even Jalen's noticing. He told me I'm the prettiest mom at the park." "Aw," the group chorused, teasing Drea as she blushed. "It's wild, though," Naima said, sobering. "We started this for us, but it's like the ripple effect is real." "That's because authenticity is magnetic," Lyric said, her voice soft but firm. "When we show up as ourselves, we give others permission to do the same." The room fell quiet, the weight of her words settling over them. "To us," Shay said, raising her glass. "To the ripples we're making." They clinked their glasses, their bond stronger than ever. The women had become symbols of self-love in their own circles, but growth didn't come without challenges. As their confidence grew, so did the pushback, from co-workers, friends, even strangers. But for every critic, there was an ally waiting to uplift them. Naima stared at herself in the mirror one morning, her skin bare except for a dab of moisturizer. She ran her fingers through her coily hair, wondering if she could pull off the day's lesson on confidence when she felt anything but confident herself. At school, a senior named Tiana raised her hand during the discussion. "Ms. Wilson, do you ever feel like being natural makes people see you as less professional?" The question cut deep, but Naima refused to let it show. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But the thing is, how others see me doesn't define me, and it doesn't define you either." Tiana nodded, but Naima couldn't shake the doubt creeping in. After class, the school counselor, Mrs. Daniels, pulled her aside. "You handled that beautifully," Mrs. Daniels said. Naima blinked. "You think so?" "Absolutely. You're teaching these kids something they'll carry for the rest of their lives. Don't doubt your impact." At the office, Shay's natural look had sparked a quiet rebellion among her coworkers. More Black women began wearing their natural hair, and it wasn't long before their supervisor, Mr. Reynolds, called a meeting. "I've noticed a shift in appearance lately," he began, his tone neutral but pointed. "While we encourage individuality, I want to remind everyone to maintain a professional image." Shay raised her hand. "With all due respect, Mr. Reynolds, are you suggesting natural hair isn't professional?" The room went silent. Mr. Reynolds looked flustered. "I'm just saying, we have standards to uphold." Shay didn't back down. "Our standards should celebrate diversity, not suppress it. Professionalism isn't about conforming to one look. It's about how we perform." After the meeting, several co-workers approached her with words of encouragement. Even Tasha, the young colleague who had been inspired by Shay, said, "You're fearless, Shay. we've got your back. Drea's family was hosting a barbecue, and she knew the aunties would be in full critique mode. As soon as she arrived, Aunt Marlene pulled her aside. "Baby, you ain't wearing no makeup today?" she asked, her voice dripping with concern. "Nope," Drea said, keeping her tone light. Aunt Marlene shook her head. "I don't know why you want to walk around looking plain. You're such a pretty girl." Drea took a deep breath. "Auntie, I'm not plain. I'm just me. And that's enough." The older woman huffed but didn't push further. Later, Drea overheard her cousin Tamika defending her. "Aunt Mar, leave her alone," Tamika said. "She's doing something most of us are too scared to do. Being real." Drea smiled to herself, grateful for the unexpected ally. Lyrics Poetry Nights had become a gathering place for women embracing their natural selves, but not everyone appreciated the shift. "You're alienating people," one of the event organizers told her. "Not everyone wants to hear about self-love and natural beauty all the time." Lyric leaned back, crossing her arms. "If my truth makes people uncomfortable, that's on them. I'm not here to sugarcoat reality." That night, she performed a new piece about resilience. The crowd roared their approval, and a woman in the back shouted, "Don't let them dim your light, sis." Lyric smiled, her resolve stronger than ever. One evening, the women gathered at Shay's apartment to decompress. "Y'all, this week has been rough," Naima admitted, slumping onto the couch. "But I had this moment where one of my students looked at me like I was invincible. That made it worth it." "Same," Shay said. "Mr. Reynolds tried to come for us at work, but we stood our ground." Drea nodded. "Even Aunt Marlene couldn't shake me this time, and Tamika actually stood up for me." Lyric grinned. "See? We're not just changing ourselves. We're changing the people around us." Naima looked around at her friends, feeling a surge of pride. "We're stronger together. No matter what comes, we've got each other." "And that," Lyric said, raising her glass, "is what they're really scared of. Us knowing our worth and standing united." They clinked their glasses, ready to face whatever came next. The Bear Summer movement wasn't a loud storm. It was a quiet, steady wave. The women's individual transformations continued to inspire those around them, creating a ripple effect that began to shift perspectives in their communities. Though there were no cameras or headlines, the impact was unmistakable. Naima's essay assignment had sparked something she hadn't anticipated. By the end of the week, students who had once slouched in their seats now sat a little taller. The essays weren't just schoolwork. They were reflections of vulnerability and courage. One afternoon, Tiana handed in her paper with a shy smile. "Ms. Wilson, I wrote this for you." Naima waited until after class to read it. Tiana's words hit her like a punch to the chest. "I used to think I wasn't pretty enough, that I needed makeup to feel normal, but you showed me that I don't need to hide. I'm learning to love the girl in the mirror, and it's because of you." Naima sat at her desk, tears threatening to spill. She realized her journey wasn't just about her. It was about the seeds she was planting in others. At Shay's job, the quiet rebellion was gaining traction. Women who once straightened their hair or kept their features polished for the professional look were now embracing their natural selves. During a team meeting, Shay noticed Tasha confidently presenting a report, her curly fro framing her face. Later, Tasha stopped by Shay's desk. "I've been thinking," Tasha said. "Maybe we should start a support group for women in the office. Somewhere we can talk about how to navigate work without feeling like we have to shrink ourselves." Shay's smile was immediate. "I love that. Let's do it." The group started small, just 5 women meeting during lunch breaks. But it quickly grew, as more women began to realize they didn't have to choose between being themselves and being professional. Drea had always felt like an outsider among the moms at the park, But after her quiet defiance of beauty norms, she noticed something interesting. More of them were starting to show up in sweats and bare faces, just like her. One afternoon, Tamika approached her with a grin. "Girl, you've got the whole park talking. They're all trying to figure out how you're so confident." Drea laughed. "Confidence is just doing what feels right, even when it's hard." Tamika nodded. "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. You're giving the rest of us permission to chill." Soon, Drea found herself at the center of a small group of moms who bonded over real conversations instead of appearances. They began swapping stories about motherhood, self-care, and learning to let go of perfection. Lyric's open mic nights had become a sanctuary for women seeking authenticity. They came in droves: college students, young professionals, even older women, each one drawn by the raw honesty of the space Lyric had cultivated. One night, a young woman named Simone took the stage. Her voice trembled as she read her poem, but her words were strong. "I thought I had to shrink to fit the world's mold, but now I see the mold was never meant for me. So I broke it." The crowd erupted in applause, and Simone stepped off the stage with tears in her eyes. Lyric pulled her into a hug. "You're brave," Lyric said. "Keep breaking molds." By the end of the night, Simone wasn't the only one who had found her voice. Lyric realized the space she had created was more than a performance venue. It was a movement. The women met at Drea's house that weekend, each bringing a dish to share. "Y'all," Naima said, setting down her plate of greens, "one of my students wrote me the most beautiful essay." She said, "I'm helping her love herself." "That's amazing," Shay said, passing around a bottle of wine. "And at work, we started a support group. It's small now, but I can see it growing." Drea nodded. "The moms at the park are starting to let their guards down. We're actually talking to each other now, instead of just pretending everything's perfect." "And the open mic nights?" Naima asked Lyric. Lyric smiled. "It's not just a poetry night anymore. It's a safe space. Women are coming to share their truth, and it's beautiful." They clinked their glasses, their laughter and joy filling the room. Naima looked around at her friends, her heart swelling with pride. "Y'all, we're really doing it. We're changing things. And the best part," Lyric said, her voice soft but firm, "we're doing it our way." The women raised their glasses again, toasting to the quiet revolution they had started. Months had passed since the women had first embarked on their bare summer journey. What started as a personal experiment had transformed into something much greater, a shift in how they saw themselves and how the world around them responded to their authenticity. But as the season drew to a close, they realized this wasn't just a summer thing. It was the rest of their lives. Naima stood in front of her mirror, the sunlight casting a warm glow on her bare face. She saw the woman she had always been, bold, beautiful, and unshaken. For years, she had sought validation through the approval of others, but now her reflection was all she needed. At school, the final essays from her students poured in. One boy, quiet and reserved all semester, had written, "You taught me that strength doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's just being yourself and not apologizing for it." Naima's heart swelled. This was her legacy, not the makeup she wore or the clothes she chose, but the seeds of confidence she planted in the next generation. Shay's workplace had evolved, thanks in large part to her courage. The support group she started had grown into a monthly workshop where women discussed topics from workplace discrimination to self-love. She watched as women, once hesitant to speak, now shared their truths boldly. During one meeting, Tasha turned to her and said, "You know, Shay, you didn't just change this office. You changed us." Shay blinked back tears. "I didn't do it alone. We did this together." For the first time in her life, Shay felt what real power was. lifting others as she rose. Drea sat in the park, watching Jalen play with a group of kids. Another mom, Tamika, sat beside her, her bare face glowing with newfound confidence. "You know," Tamika said, "I used to think I had to have it all together to be a good mom. But seeing you just being yourself, it made me realize that's enough." Drea smiled, her chest tight with emotion. "I used to think the same thing. But now I know the best gift I can give Jalen is showing him what it means to love yourself." As Jalen ran up to her, grinning, Drea scooped him into her arms, feeling lighter than she had in years. Lyric stood on stage at her final open mic night of the summer. The room was packed, the energy electric. She had spent weeks crafting a poem that encapsulated everything she'd learned, everything she wanted to leave behind. Taking a deep breath, she began. "They told me I was too much, too loud, too bold, too black, but I found my truth in the quiet. In the moments I peeled back the layers, they told me I needed to survive. Now I know. I was always enough." The room erupted in applause, women standing, tears streaming down their faces. Lyric stepped off the stage, her heart full. As she made her way through the crowd, a young woman grabbed her hand. "Your words saved me," she said, her voice trembling. Lyric squeezed her hand. "Your voice will save someone else." The women gathered one last time at Naima's apartment. It wasn't a farewell, this wasn't the end of their journey, but the beginning of something even bigger. "I've been thinking," Naima said, holding up her glass of sparkling cider. "We started this to find ourselves, but look how many lives we've touched along the way." "Facts," Shay said, grinning. "I used to think my worth was tied to what I looked like. Now I know my power comes from within." Drea nodded. "And we're teaching the next generation that they don't have to wait for someone else to tell them they're enough." Lyric raised her glass. "To us. To Black women everywhere. To the beauty, the strength, the magic we carry every single day." They clinked their glasses, laughter and tears mingling as they toasted to their journey. Years later, the women looked back on that summer as the moment everything changed. They didn't need billboards or magazine covers to prove their worth. They had built something far more powerful, a community of women who knew their beauty, their strength, and their value were never up for debate. And as the ripple effects of their choices spread, one thing became clear. They hadn't just embraced their own light, they had illuminated a path for others to follow.